video, right?
The 9. Klein can't dribble himself free. He's going to have to take a long one. Klein, step back, 3 for the tie. Oh! He's got it again! They get it to him. More in space. A burst of speed. A first down for Purdue. He's still going. Moore cuts back. Touchdown! Each one more.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Boiler Express podcast. I am one of your hosts, Damon of the Ultimate Boiler. We've got the whole crew here tonight, which has been kind of hard to do lately, but we're all here tonight. We're all here together, ready to talk about the culmination of what was Purdue football this year, talk about some basketball. So should be a good time. But before we get into any of that, I'd be remiss if I didn't go ahead and shout out our partnerships and sponsors. So first, our partnership with Big Banner. Make sure you check them out. They've got a podcast for every Big Ten school out there. They also have people that write articles and whatnot. So sorry about that. Make sure you check them out. Make sure you check out. They've got everything for that you could need, Big Ten wise. So Jesus Christ. If anybody's watching this right now, I'm so sorry. We have a very unprofessional cameraman.
That shouldn't be new to anyone.
It's really good to have
ridiculous.
our guest of the
I keep
show.
going out
Ultimate
of like
Boiler.
somebody keeps like pushing me out of the frame. I keep going like halfway out, halfway in, halfway out when we go zoomed in. But,
Ultimate Boiler. It's great to have you on as a guest today.
oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You too, BXP Russ. How was your vacations, huh? While we've been over here working.
All right. Anyway,
Slave
yeah, Big Banner. Check them out. They've got a podcast for every single school. Got a lot of content for Big Ten just in general. And then shout out to our sponsorships over at Cincy Blitzboards. It's a great game for family, friends, tailgates, bar mitzvahs, Christmas parties, Hanukkah. Yeah, all the other holidays that are coming up here shortly. Baptisms.
You bring one of these to your baptisms, I'm going. I'll be there. Sign me up.
So make sure you get a Blitzboard. Also, go to martinvintage.com. Use code BXP at checkout for 10% off. I'm actually wearing my Martin Vintage shirt that they sent me. Beautiful shirt, very nice quality. Love it. And it's one of those. It's a material that does not. Oh, snap.
Whoa,
What is going on?
Is a family program.
Russ is showing off his Boiler Express, or not his Boiler Express, his Martin Vintage shirt as well. Maybe we do need a Boiler Express shirt. Be great. So yeah, make sure you use code BXP at checkout and get 10% off. Get your significant other holiday gift, or just buy something for yourself. Who cares?
Yeah, what if we're single, Damon?
Sorry.
Nothing's going to sell shirts like rescuing the truffle shuffle. I'm just telling you.
Nobody wants to see that, right?
They're just going to see a giant spike in sales this week. Well, we've gone up 45%. What could it be? And
it's enough that your nurses at the
welcome.
And it's just all code truffle shuffle at checkout. But yeah, so I guess we should start off kind of with everybody's thoughts on football, as football is the first year of Ryan Walters is done. The Boilermakers finished 4-8 this year. 3 of those came in the Big Ten, though. I think that's something to talk about, which is pretty exciting. Wins over Illinois, Minnesota, and IU. So I was pretty happy about that. And obviously the non-con win over Virginia Tech as well, which I think is Virginia Tech bowling? Did they end up like figuring it out?
Yeah,
this year?
they finished 6-6.
Yeah, they're a bowl team, which is great. Did we play any team besides IU with a losing record this year?
No,
It was the only one. I think Minnesota technically didn't
Nebraska-
have a losing record. when we
Nebraska and
played.
Illinois both finished 5-7 as well.
okay.
We didn't
Okay.
play a team that had a losing record at the time of the game.
Until
Right.
IU.
Right. Yeah. So does anybody want to? I know Russ has a lot of thoughts on football, but does anybody else, or Russ, if you're ready to go, what were your thoughts on football? Get us going here.
I mean, well, I had a little game going. Do you want me to just go ahead and roll into that, or?
Sure.
Okay, so you guys know how much, especially Frank and I, have loved this Pro Football Focus, the next level stats,
Your guys'
breaking down
Bible.
games. Yeah. So I thought we'd do a little kind of a trivia game. So it's almost like a Family Feud / Jeopardy style game.
Oh,
I'm gonna
God,
make
I don't
Frank,
want to be family with any of these people.
We
I'm
all
gonna make
know.
Frank go
Wow.
last because
Okay.
he's
I'll
obviously
cancel the
a
podcast Christmas
like
party then.
daily reader of the PFF goods. So what I did was I wrote down our best overall team grades, like our top 3 games, our worst 3 games, our top 3 games on offense and defense, as well as our worst 3 games on offense and defense. And then I also wrote down kind of at the end, we're going to go over individual grades for the year. So I'm going to start with let's start with Damon as the host. So do you want to try to guess our best overall performance for the year? Either
Offensively?
overall defense, offense, whatever. Just pick a category, and then what I'm going to do is if you get the highest, you're going to get 3 points. If you get the second, it's going to be 2 points. If you get last, you get 3 points. So I'm going to let the 3 of you guys, Damon, Dylan, and Chris, go first, and then Frank will back clean up on anything you guys miss. So,
well, I have 2 games in mind for the best offensive performance. It's obviously going to be maybe it's not obvious, but to me, it's got to be Minnesota or Illinois as best offensive performance.
You got to pick one. What's your one?
I know. I was explaining. I said
okay.
I got to pick between the 2.
Yeah, let the man explain.
So I'd have to say, I mean, Minnesota was the most shocking one, just because we were kind of in a lull. So, I'm going to go with Illinois, though. I'm going to go Illinois' best offensive performance.
So Illinois was actually 3rd. We graded
Okay.
out at 70.1 on offense. So you get 1 point for that. So let's go around the clock. Clockwise, we'll go Dylan. Best offensive performance.
Let's do Indiana.
IU is actually our second. So 2 points for Dylan. Well done, Chris.
Shout out to
I'm
Google.
gonna say
How was
Minnesota.
this graded? I'm so confused.
Yeah, Minnesota was our best game.
I mean,
Yeah,
we had
yeah,
like
I don't know.
650 yards of total offense. It was just we mollywopped those kids.
Yeah, Damon
Mollywop.
almost had it. I was like, I almost gave you credit, but then I apologize. Frank,
Thank you, Nick.
for a point yourself, who was actually tied for the 3rd best performance with Illinois?
Ooh, we have a tie.
Frank's gonna win this.
Heck,
game,
as we learned last week, offense matters for winning. I'm going to go with Virginia Tech.
Bingo.
That's what I was gonna say too.
That's why he's the stat tank. You left him one option and he figured it out.
I told you.
Like you said, I do look at these every day.
So Dylan, you want to go ahead and take your shot at one of the other 5, either best or worst offense, or best or worst defense, or worst offensive performance, or just
Fresno
best and
State
worst
wasn't a bad
overall?
guess either, Nick.
Yeah, we'll go with Nick. Fresno State.
Well, like defense,
Uh,
like you got to
what?
pick
Which
okay.
category are you guessing?
the worst
Let's
or
just
best?
go defense. We just did offense, so guess our best defensive performance of the year.
There we go. You gotta be more specific with me.
I gave you too many options. I apologize.
All right. Let's do Wisconsin.
Not on the list.
I was gonna say, I don't know.
So Chris, you can go ahead and go second this time.
Listen.
I'm gonna say
You guys are getting some help from the audience. Maybe not help. I'm just saying they're throwing guesses out for y'all. So
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it.
think IU.
Not on the list.
Damn.
Damon, you got all 3 options on the board there, and then Frank's going to get some
Oh,
points.
Frank
here.
is
Frank's
okay. Frank.
dying at the bit
This
over there.
is a little bit of
Okay.
a trick question, but Frank kind of gave you a hint at.
I was gonna say,
kinda
I think
the
well,
process.
yeah, I know Virginia Tech's got to be one of them. Trying to think of other games that we played really well. Illinois is probably one. I'm gonna go with Illinois.
That was our 3rd best defensive game, actually.
Okay, I'm
68.7 is
3rd place, baby. That's me. Let's
You
go.
got a point. You got a point. You're tied with Dylan now. And so Frank,
Oh, look at you.
our first and our second options are there. Do you know them?
I'm guessing here Virginia Tech.
Negative.
Okay, I mean, I think about the interceptions and the sacks.
So
That's
I
what
really
made me
didn't-
think about IU.
If you guys, I think it was the IU recap when you guys were talking about we should want to build a team around offense, not defense, because when you play well on offense, that overcomes defense and you win games. Whereas your defense can play really well, but if your offense doesn't back it up, then you're not going to win the game. So
Yeah.
our best defensive performance was actually Nebraska. at 72.2 graded as a team. And then our second was Fresno State. So literally our two best defensive performances were losses. So
viewer comment here from Nick, who guessed Iowa. I honestly thought that would probably be up there, but really, like the poor play offensively from Iowa wasn't necessarily because of Purdue. It was just
so I don't explain these stats to me. How is a game where we gave up 39 points one of our best defensive performances? Like I just want to know like the numbers behind that, because that just off the like just reading that on paper doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. So
for one,
in fact. Go right ahead, Russ.
No, you go ahead, Frank. Take it.
So it factors in. So for one thing, it's kind of misleading to look at it as like a whole offense or whole defense, but offensively it factors in every single piece. So it goes to run blocking, pass blocking, quarterback decision making. So like let's say Card makes a terrible read and throws up a ball straight into double coverage, and then the DB gets hands on it and tips it up, and then Deion Burks catches it and runs it in for a touchdown. Hudson Card is going to get negatively docked for that play. However, if he makes the right read, throws the ball, like makes the best decision, throws it to the right receiver, and the receiver drops it, he still gets credit for that as being like the best high probability play. Receivers are graded on how well they get separation. Running backs are graded on their reads and their ability to push beyond the line. They separate runs out between like what they call line yards, which are yards generated by the offensive line, and yards generated by the running back. They're like they collect 600 data points on every single play, and they go through and they have a checks and balances system where so basically every player is graded from on a scale between -2 and +2 on every single play, and they go in and they have someone double check everything. But it's like ultimately it's put into came under a lot of criticism when Aaron Rodgers threw for like 500 yards and 5 touchdowns and he got a 60 something, but like he had 2 passes that hit the receivers in their hands or hit DBs in their hands. I'm sorry. And then he had, a pass that was thrown into like triple coverage that happened to be caught for a touchdown. So yeah, it measures every single facet of that. Right. So, I mean, it's not necessarily results based, it's performance based.
And having gone to the Fresno State game, what stands out defensively as far as our performance was, one, their quarterback was like running for his life that game. It felt like we were getting very, very good pressure on him. And it felt like a lot of their passes that he was completing, especially the deep balls and touchdowns, he was just chucking them up there. And our DBs were in good position, but somehow their receiver came down with the ball and made the play. So, but let's go ahead so we got 4 more here. So, Chris, do you want to go with best or worst overall team performances, or you want to go with worst defense performance or offense performance? Like, how do you want to do this?
Hold on. Give me the 4 categories again.
So we got the best overall team grade, the worst overall team grade, or the worst defensive performances and the worst offensive performances.
Best overall team grade.
Okay. We got.
Again, I kind of want to say Minnesota.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
That's number 1. 79.7. That was our best performance overall as a team.
Attaboy, Christopher.
I try.
That's 2 number 1 answers for Chris. So we'll keep going clockwise and we'll let Damon go second here.
And this is for best or worst. Sorry, I was looking up Fresno State's
best
record.
overall
I had
team
that on my mind. Best overall team performance. Best overall team performance. I keep going with Illinois and it doesn't get me anywhere. Which it may or may not this time.
It's for best offensive because it was the 3rd best offensive performance.
I'm gonna go best overall. I'll just go Illinois again.
Damn. There you go. So you didn't stick with your first instinct on the first question, but they are our 3rd best overall performance. They were our 3rd best defensive, 3rd best offensive, and then overall they were 3rd best performance. So steady with the points there. So Dylan, could you guess our 2nd best overall team performance?
Indiana.
Negative.
Damn.
Frank, what do you got?
I'm so bad at this shit.
Virginia Tech.
Negative. So
I'm just going to go 3 for 3 on guessing Virginia Tech.
Fresno State was actually our 2nd best overall team graded game.
Really?
And keep in mind, this is every position. This is linebackers. This is coverage guys.
Kickers.
It's across the kickers. Yeah, it's across the board. So all these things get factored into that.
Kickers.
Right.
Man.
So let's go with worst games. So we'll just rotate in the same order that we did the offense, defense overall. So Damon. This is like Frank's. Hey, yeah, it is Stats Jeopardy. So Damon, what was our worst offensive performance of the year, or one of our
Well,
worst?
unfortunately, I can't say Illinois this time.
Right.
You said worst offensive performance?
Yep.
I'm going to go with Wisconsin.
Negative.
Oh, I got one.
Was not in our top 3. Dylan, what you got?
Ohio State.
Negative.
Oh, yeah, that's
Are you
true.
kidding me?
What?
It was not one of our worst offensive graded games. No.
How this is rigged.
I'm
Doing
good.
these
I'm
stats,
going to
bro.
say Michigan.
Michigan was our second worst game on offense. Yeah.
Having
We're at
been there
50
live, I can
Yeah.
confirm.
54.6 was our overall team grade on offense that game. So
Ohio
Frank,
State really wasn't.
our worst game and our third worst game on offense is there.
Frank's getting excited.
Syracuse.
This is like the most like
Negative.
Oh, yeah.
Syracuse wasn't on
Animated.
What?
We had 5 turnovers.
Bro, Jesus.
Nebraska was
Okay.
actually our worst offensive performance, right? So remember how I said when we were talking about the offensive performances, how our best offensive performances a lot of times are wins, but our best defensive performances we don't win because our offense can't back up the defensive performance. So yeah, Nebraska was one of those games that, if you remember how frustrating it was, right? Our defense seemed like it played really well. We just couldn't get something sustained on offense. So, what is that? What you said, Frank? By the way, I'm sorry. No, you said Syracuse. No points for Frank. Okay.
it's obvious that producer Nick doesn't listen to the podcast because he's in the group chat. It's telling us that Kane is going to the draft. Yeah, we know, Nick.
Duh.
We know.
Guy.
Dylan, what was our worst defensive performance of the year?
Ohio State.
Ding. There you go. Ohio State was our worst team defensive performance.
Wow, I can't believe it.
Chris, what do you think? Second or
Michigan.
third? Michigan was our second. There you
Yeah.
go.
Again,
Yes, huh?
having
Sun-
been there.
The
All right, so
sunglass
Dylan, this is a little bit
Mysterious.
harder. What was our third worst defensive performance?
Dylan or me?
Dylan,
Oh,
or Damon,
no,
I'm sorry, Damon.
it's
Oh
Damon's
wow!
turn.
I was
And here's a hint.
Wisconsin?
I'll give you a hint. Oh, Wisconsin.
I get all
Negative.
my names mixed up.
Dang. I was at that game. That felt pretty bad.
What do you think, Frank?
Okay, so what's been said? There's been a lot
Ohio
of talk
State and
going on.
Michigan, and then
Ohio
Damon
State.
guessed Wisconsin, which was not on there.
Michigan. This is worst defensive performance, right?
Yep.
Nebraska.
Negative.
All right.
That was our best
I don't know.
defensive performance,
Yeah.
remember? Yeah. So
Okay.
Virginia Tech was actually our third worst defensive performance, but being our third best offensive performance, we overcame our defense. And I think that's a little slanted because if you remember, there was like a quarter and a half where we just couldn't stop them, right? Like all of a sudden we came back from that break.
Yeah, the second quarter.
I just think about the picks, but the picks were more of a bad passing than they were DBs making plays, so to speak.
So we're already at 17 minutes, so I'm gonna skip the worst overall team performance, but I'm gonna let Chris go on this one. So I wrote down our 6 best individual graded players for the season and our 5 best defensive players. So 6 on offense, 5 on defense. There's 11 players. The higher up, basically, the more points you get. So you can pick offense or defense. If a name's on the list, I'll give you certain points based on how high they are.
Okay.
Prepare to be surprised.
Yes.
Defense. I'll
You don't
go.
have to. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. You don't have to say which one, but obviously I'd know based
Oh,
on
okay.
where you say.
Sorry.
Yeah. You're good.
Dylan Thieneman.
Easy one. That's our best defensive player.
Yeah, that
Graded at 89.6. He was actually our top player
Holy
overall for the
crap.
season. 89.6, which if you remember, you get in the 70s and you're talking about like elite level play. So to be in close to 90s, like there's a reason he was the best freshman in the Big Ten this year. So that was
Yeah,
worth
like-
5 points. there.
Blake Corum was like a 91, so
Mhm.
like that's just for
Well,
some,
Blake
uh,
Corum only ran for 50 yards against IU when
People
they
forget
played him,
that.
so
Very
clearly
true.
he's
So-
not that good.
Damon, what do you think? Best graded players for the season.
Best graded players for the season. I'm gonna have to say Hudson Card's probably one of them.
Hudson Card, you guess? He was our
Yes.
third best offensive player at 70.5.
baby. Threes all day. I'm like Fletcher Lawyer over here.
All right, Dylan, who you got?
Tyrone Tracy.
Tyrone Tracy was our best graded offensive player
What up, y'all?
this season. So that's worth 6 points there, Dylan.
When was the
So-
last year that a running back was the best offensive graded player at Purdue? I would love to know that. That'd be a fun stat to know.
hold tight.
I'm going to guess DJ Knox or Markel Jones.
1 second,
One of
as
those
our
guys
big
there,
brain
yeah.
department.
I bet
Well,
it's I bet it's farther back than that. I bet it's like
Because
Ralph
Rondale Moore's-
Bolden.
Frank, you want to guess before you start
Ralph
looking up
Bolden.
too much
I
there?
forgot about that name.
I love that.
I'm gonna guess
Yeah, good guy.
Mo Amanode.
Or Dan Durkin.
What?
That's the one that I thought would get missed. So he actually was. He was our third best defensive
Hey,
player.
Frank, don't miss. You
He
can't
was-
get nothing past
graded
Frank.
at
Frank
I've
don't
actually
miss.
missed several times tonight, but yeah,
Yeah,
no,
but now you
Russ,
did.
I
I've
look
actually
at
been
player
disappointed
stats a
by
lot,
Frank.
so
Yep,
I
yep.
helped y'all out with that one.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's
Your
one guy that he
Jeopardy
didn't
is
start a
perfect.
whole lot, but he played well in the minutes that he got and the snaps that he got. So yeah,
We still going in the circle.
yeah. Back to Chris. We'll go one more round through, and then I'll go over the
Okay.
names we missed and a couple things I noticed.
Sanusi Kane.
Sanusi Kane was not in the top 5 on defense.
Wow. Oh wow.
I think this defensive scheme really. I think that really it was a struggle for him to like learn that and get comfortable in that this year.
I agree. Damon,
One of the best defensive players. I'm gonna have to go Nick Scorton. Gonna
Nick
have
Scorton
to.
was our second best defensive player on the season. Yep. Graded out at 82.4 on the season.
Should have been on first team All Big Ten. Ridiculous.
So, Dylan, you're up, and you are 4 points behind Chris for the title here. So you got to get somebody. Basically, you have to guess who had our second best offensive performance if you're going to win this. And it's going to be tough. Mockabee actually had our sixth best offensive performance.
So he's right off.
I'll give you a point on there. He is actually our sixth best. So
Oh, thank you for the one.
oh, Frank, I'll let you guess one more, and then I'll go through the rest of them.
Gus Hartwig.
Gus Hartwig was our fifth best. He was
Damn, I should have guessed Gus. That's all.
he was actually our third best offensive lineman grade wise.
Gus Bus.
69.8.
I guess
he
who's
was our
coming
third best.
back? Big Gus.
Or fifth best, I'm sorry.
Hey, Damon, to answer your question, so I went all the way back as far as PFF goes, and couldn't find one. Couldn't find one where a running back was number 1. I did find one instance of a running back being number 2, and it was DJ Fox in 2018, second best offensive player behind Rondale Moore.
There you go.
Let's
See,
go. Big time
knew
bowler
DJ
with
Knox named it.
perfect comment here. Bring back the IU guy from last week that claimed we couldn't run the ball on them. LOL. 185 yards
Yes.
later.
Our graphics
Yeah.
guy has a clip where he was basically mocking that we had no chance to beat them. Look for that on social
I
media.
think that's probably accurate had he played the whole season. I think that's
yeah. Yeah.
fantastic recency bias.
So our second best offensive player that wasn't named, he's an offensive lineman. He wasn't talked about a whole lot. Wasn't talked about a lot. No,
My
Embo was
guy,
actually
Ben Coons.
he was our fourth. No, it wasn't Ben Coons.
He
Preston
only
Nichols,
played 6 games.
Love you, Ben.
Crazy.
Preston Nichols was actually our best graded offensive lineman this year. 71.1. And then I think you got the rest of the offensive guys. Defensively, our fourth best defender was Marquise Wilson. That's why I looked up. We talked about that before we came on. I think that's why I looked up to see if he had another year of eligibility because
Does
he
Nichols?
was so good with us. I thought he was our best defensive back when he was healthy. What's that?
Does Nichols have another year of eligibility, or is he done?
I think he did. Because I think I looked that up. I think he's
That
a
would be
junior,
awesome.
a
So if we could
sophomore
have
or junior.
Imbo, Hartwig, and Nichols.
No,
And then our
Nichols
fifth
has
best-
played 5. He's
our
played
fifth-
5 seasons.
Our fifth
Yeah.
best defensive player on the season, Cajun Jenkins, 71.1. Now, the big thing I noticed on defense was he was our fifth best at 71.1, right? We had no other defender that graded out over a 66. So there was like a giant gap after those top 5 guys. So that's why I've been telling people when you see all these transfers, there's only a few names that like would really scare me if they transferred because we got really, really good contributions out of only like a few people when they were healthy. Like there's different guys that had moments, right? Like Deion Burks was great for us, right? He made a lot of highlight plays, a lot of great plays, but he wasn't even like near the top 6 on offense. He graded out, I think, 64.7 on offense because his drop rating was 53.8 because his hands were not great this year. His hands were not great.
Well, and he had the most contested throws too, 22. So he had more contested catch opportunities than any other wide receiver for Purdue. And of those 22, how many did he haul in? How many 50-50 balls did he catch of the 22?
I would say
12.
less than 5.
Damon 4. We got
Mhm.
12. We got less than 5. So the answer is 5.
Hmm.
Yeah, he was 5 for 22 on 50-50 balls. And Deion Burks is a good player. I'm not here to dog on him, but I can definitely talk about where I think he could improve going forward. But like that catch against the big catch against IU, that could have been a touchdown. Like instead he like laid out and tumbled.
Yeah, that was
and
weird.
fell on the
But
ground.
how much of that was on Card's throw?
Well, I
didn't
also
look
heard
like it was
Walter
that far
say
ahead
in
of
the
him.
press conference that the reason he did that was because he had dropped that pass in practice like 5 times that week.
Oh.
So he had 4 or 5 of those. Here a comment. Burks jumping on that pass from Carr instead of catching it and walking the end zone
Yeah.
is all you need to know. Yeah. I mean, and again, not knocking on the guy. He was our leading receiver this year, also leading targets. And he was obviously the guy that Card trusted on those 50-50 balls. He didn't haul them in. I mean, and he is the fastest player on the team. 50 or split between that with him and Dylan Thieneman. But I mean, so yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately the question, if we can assign a 1 to 10, 1 being like we're not going to notice his absence at all, 10 meaning it's going to completely change the dynamic of the team for next year. How would you grade the departure of Deion Burks?
2.
That's what I was going to say.
Wow.
I think that we bring in a lot of talent in wide receiver in the upcoming class, as well as the transfer portal. Burks. Walters has already shown that he has the capability of being able to recruit transfers at that. And there's been opportunities to show that Card is a good quarterback when he's got time. He just didn't have receivers to get open, and Deion Burks was one of those. He did not use his speed effectively.
And was it confirmed that Garrett Miller's coming back?
I have no idea.
It's not confirmed, but word on the street is he's strongly considering coming.
So he's strongly considering, and then Max Clare was cooking early in the season.
Yeah.
So our tight ends are going to be huge next year for us too.
And we get Yassine back.
Yep.
Was this coming back for his 7th year?
So
I just feel like he's been here forever.
I know.
There was a couple more notes I wanted to give on the player grades if I get those out.
Well, I do want to say I don't know because you guys said like out of a 10 you would give him a 2. I don't know if I can say that. Can you like put a number on it because he was obviously Card's like #1 target throughout the season. So even though we're bringing in top guys, who knows how well they're going to translate from high school to college, and who knows how these transfers are going to do. It's just all about, his ability to make that connection, build that chemistry with somebody. But he did that with, Burks in a year. So who's to say he can't do that?
I didn't know that. I thought he had another year.
Yeah, I was going to say Yassine's been here since.
Yeah, but with all the COVID years and stuff, man, it's been so hard to know what's what.
I hate that for that guy too, because he was just so injury filled and ridden. It just sucks for him. But
yeah,
Russ, what did you have to add?
So Devin Mockabee, there's 2 things that he graded out very poorly on that I noticed. One, as you could probably guess, was his fumble rating. It was like 26.5. Also, his pass blocking, 23.5. So as bad as he was at holding on to the football, he was atrocious in pass blocking. Tyrone Tracy, on the other hand, 69.9 pass blocking. I also looked up on quarterbacks just to see how they graded out in that week against Northwestern. Meredith, 48.3 on the season, and Ryan Brown was 50.6. So there was according to PFF, there was a very, very large performance gap between those 2 quarterbacks. So, or between those 3, I guess, between the top quarterback and the bottom 2.
So a comment: medical retiring or going into transfer portal for Yassine? I mean, yeah, he has battled a lot of injuries. I don't know if this is speculation or some insider knowledge, but I would love to see him come back if he could, and rather than go in the transfer portal for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, who else is left? I mean, I think when you look at Deion Burks leaving and you combine that with Sheffield and Rice, right, and now Colin Sullivan, right, and now Curtis Hill, the Zion Steptoe, I mean, who did make the transition to DB, but how are you feeling about the receiving core next season?
It's very thin. I mean, we're bringing in some wide receivers next year, but right now, and we'll have to see what we do in the portal, but it's very thin. Very thin. Our thin team is very thin right now.
Yeah, and I honestly wasn't aware of the situation with Yassine as well, but we saw Jaden Dixon-Veal step up as the season went on. I'm not sure what the status is on Elijah Canyon. I think he may be done as well. But yeah, they're Walters has a lot of work ahead of him. But from everything that I've read, it kind of word on the street is that there are only 3 or 4 of these transfers that were not initiated by Purdue, let's say. I think that Corday Sidnor was one that surprised everybody, and that meaning the staff. Who is the D lineman as well? There's been so many. I'm having trouble keeping up with all of them. Suleiman Paka as well. That was one that surprised everybody. And then Kaltenberger was another one that the coaches weren't anticipating, and they, to put it bluntly, weren't shoved out. And I think that's where we kind of have to calm down a little bit and maybe understand that some of these are maybe the decision of the coaching staff. Because Walters did arrive late. And, we saw what Deion Sanders did when he got there early. I mean, he kicked out like half the team in Colorado. And, it's hard to read between the lines in these scenarios and understand, the situation, whether it's initiated by Purdue or initiated by the player. But, of these transfers, so just to talk through some of them, we have Sheffield, Josh Kaltenberg, Corday Sidnor, OC Brothers, Julio Macias, Rashawn Rice, Suleiman Paca, Prince James Boyden Jr., Dominic Moon, Colin Sullivan, Zion Steptoe. Who are we going to miss the most?
I mean, I have to say Burks, just purely due to like playing time, because a lot of the other guys never, not to knock them at all, it's just the fact they just never saw the field. So I don't know what kind of an impact they would have had they been on the field. So I think just purely off of like playing time, and so far it's got to be Burks. Kaltenberger, glad, thankful for his time at Purdue, but, wasn't one of the best offensive linemen that we had. Just, the numbers are there. So, yeah, I would have to say Burks.
Yeah, I'd probably agree there.
Yeah, I think Burks, when you combine the other receiver departures as well, I think that's going to be a tough one. I mean,
Bard's going to have like a whole new wide receiver room next year, basically.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Especially with some of the guys who didn't get as many reps.
We have Tavion. Dude, the tight end room is going to be good next year, especially if Miller comes back, because we've got Claire. We're going to have Garrett Miller if he comes back. And then Tavion Galloway he's going to be an early enrollee. He enrolls in January.
And Keondae Henry.
And we saw Burren just come out of nowhere.
Is he a tight end too?
Yeah. Henry we saw him.
No, Keondae Henry's a wide receiver. But
gotcha.
I was just talking about targets, sorry.
So to go back and fact check something as well, Preston Nichols is a sixth-year senior this year, so he will not be able to come back. So, but the good news is, of those 11 guys, only 2 of them cannot come back next year, right? Nichols and Marquise Wilson. Everybody else could come back, including Kydron Jenkins, who is rumored, not really rumored, because he said it on the Coach Walters show that he was strongly considering coming back.
Yeah, that would be huge. Absolutely huge. Echo. Just talking over Frank there, my bad. But yeah, Jenkins coming back would be huge. I mean, those 2 guys as a tandem are just, mean. I mean, they're were they the best were we number 1 in sacks in the Big Ten this year? Number 2?
I think we finished second at the end of the season.
Yeah. But they were, I think Scorton was first and Jenkins was third, I believe, in sacks, and they were 1 and 2, I think, in total tackles for loss.
Yeah, and shout out to the guy, the coach. I can't remember what his name is off the top of my head. I think it's like Preston Gordon or something, who's the rushing specialist, the edge rushing specialist that is primarily working with those guys. He's clearly doing something that's great. Like Nick Scorton was great last year, his freshman year. Kydron Jenkins had good moments too, but this year it felt like they both just exploded onto the scene and really asserted themselves as dominant players on the field. So,
I definitely. Sorry, I thought you were done.
No, I was just gonna say I hope that guy's kind of like Coach Brantley, where he's just like Purdue's best kept secret, and nobody comes after him because he's doing a great job.
So I definitely think that maybe the reason. So I read it today. The reason I'm not overly concerned about getting guys in is because I think they said of NCAA rosters, 20.8% of those rosters have entered the transfer portal. That's a big ass chunk.
That's insane.
Well, I mean, and this is the new norm, and I'm still struggling to adapt to it personally.
Yeah. So I definitely think it's one of those though that like you can get your need covered.
Yeah, I went.
Yeah, Minnesota has like no quarterback room now at all. They lost the Greek guy. They lost their freshman. So
I went to the Purdue Davidson basketball game in Indianapolis last season, and they had the football players there signing autographs. And of the, I think 9 players that were there, 4 entered the transfer portal within the next like 2 weeks. So, it was pretty crazy.
That's why, like I said, man, I'm just not overly like, And that's exactly it.
Eric, are
Comment
you
here
going to
is
be in the
supposed to
portal?
be. There's a comment here. It's supposed to be 600 to 700 D1 players entering the portal by next week.
I think Eric would be a great Purdue fan.
Well, I
He'd be
wonder
great.
after the big loss Ohio State suffered if Eric will be in the podcast portal.
Podcast portal.
So I'm
and
not like any.
Honestly,
any-
there are probably more coming. I mean, we're probably
Oh,
looking at least 5
Yeah.
more.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to when we got to talking about the guys in the transfer portal and everything, and I want to apologize. I may have overreacted to a certain post about starters and whatnot leaving or whatever, but
You
I wanted
overreact? Never.
after I saw that, I
Any
wanted
of
to
us.
go and look at who had per PFF who had really good seasons for us, and if any of those guys were the guys that transferred. And luckily, that's not the case. And so those are guys that I'd probably be worried about. But if the other 80% of the roster transfers, I'm not too worried about it until I see a product on the field. As long as those guys are coming back that we talked about, I think I'll be pretty level-headed going into next year.
Yeah,
And,
I mean,
and these guys all know the state of college football and how this stuff is working and going on. So I completely trust Walters to fill it up. I mean, right now he's got the 28th ranked recruiting class. Last year we were like 70th.
Mhm.
So
and before
all-
that, we had like 2 in the 50s.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
Yeah.
58th ranked class in 2023, and it's 28th ranked in 2024. So I'm not that concerned, and I am convinced because Walters was able to get a guy like Hudson Card, who was wanted by a lot of big programs. I mean, let's not get it wrong. There were programs like Wisconsin, probably Illinois, South Carolina, Cal, some of the Pac-12 teams, other in-state Texas teams, Baylor, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, that really wanted that dude. And for him to pull him up here, I think that says a lot about Walter's capability. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have another splash kind of transfer in this portal.
Well, and I think the way that he took him too. I mean, he
Yeah.
picked him up from Illinois while he
Yeah.
was there visiting.
Yeah, that's
took him
a
to Purdue.
baller move.
It
That
really
is that
well,
is
literally got
a-
hired and flew to Dallas the very
Yeah.
next day to meet Graham Harrell and go to Hudson Card's house and talk to him.
Yeah, that is a and I hate to do it, but that's like a Hunter Dickinson,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is.
it's a
is
big
for
ball
sure.
move.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, Matt Rule really gave us some insight today with his
Yeah.
comments about
Nerd.
NIL, and he said, you want a top quarterback, you're looking at between $1 and $2 million bucks, and kudos to him for saying that. I'm not sure I necessarily would have said that, but that was really eye opening for me to know, like, okay, this is the landscape now. Like this is modern college football.
I also
this-
don't believe it.
Oh, I
Don't-
do.
No,
I do for sure.
no, not even a little.
I mean, they wanted to pay, what was it, Gonzaga supposedly wanted to pay like 600, 500K for Braden Smith to transfer there.
And I
So,
I feel
I
like
believe it.
I feel like if Eric from Ohio Pod's listening, he may have some insight here. On
Yeah,
this.
Eric, check your Twitter DMs, will you?
How much have you guys been paying your players for years now, Eric?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
much,
yeah.
Eric,
how much you
check
guys
your
pay Marvin
Twitter
Harrison
DMs.
Jr. to come there?
Check your Twitter DMs. Okay.
Well, I think is it time to move on to basketball?
I'm gonna look up
38
this
minutes.
NIL thing real quick, but
But
continue on.
let's
Because
I don't know.
and even if they are 1 to 2 million for a really good quarterback, it's not like Nebraska of all schools doesn't have the freaking people behind football to fork out that kind of money.
of
I'm
all
sure they've
sports
got
they would
plenty of
have, yeah.
boosters. And
So
Oh, they do. That's why they're so frustrated.
So
with their
if we want
performance.
to talk about good quarterbacks, so the top one is Shadur Sanders, not a good quarterback, at $5 million. Arch Manning, who hasn't done anything, at 2.9. Caleb Williams, who is looking more like a bust every day,
Ooh,
at 2.3.
really, isn't he like a top NFL draft pick?
Just because he's top NFL draft. Ryan Leaf was also a top NFL draft pick.
that's true.
Drake May at 1.5 million. Bo Nix, who's actually a Heisman contender, at 1.3. Michael Penix Jr. at 1.3. Sam Hartman at 1.2. McCarthy at 1.2. So okay, I'll concede the fact that, like, sure, right about $1 million.
So Dylan, I
So-
feel like you've been trying to say something. What are you trying to say?
Well, no, it's when he comes out and says a quarterback costs $1 million. Are we going to act like quarterbacks weren't being paid before?
No.
Yeah,
Like,
Right.
absolutely.
but I'm saying,
I
is
think
he
Damon
acting
said
like,
it. He said, "Tell us how much you've been paying your players, Eric. How much?"
yeah, like he's going to pretend like that hasn't happened before. NIL, like NIL just makes it legal. Like, what-
Right.
So speaking of money, you guys reminded me of something I looked up because I did go back and try to listen to most of Friday night's pod, even though I didn't get to be on there.
Thank you.
Or no, sorry, this was Wednesdays. You talked about the bowl game, right?
Days are hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we
Hey,
have been going
we're
on it
podding
for-
like 3 or 4 nights a week now.
I
instead of
know,
just
yeah.
one
We're
night,
really
so it's
putting in
harder
the
to keep
work
track.
here, boys.
Yeah.
Good for us.
Um,
eh?
Hey,
But you guys were
again,
discussing it was
carrying-
IU.
We're-
It was
Our
IU because you
backs
guys
are
were
sore, but
discussing
shoulders hurt.
bowl games and who we should schedule. Should we just get to 6 wins? All that stuff. Well, bowl games, there's so much money in that, recruiting and blah blah blah, right? Well, do you know how bowl games get paid out? Anybody?
allotment of tickets.
Negative. So schools have to buy the allotment of tickets,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And schools have to pay their own travel, right? So some of the lower bowl games, like you're talking about, like the Bahamas Bowl, the Meineke Car Care Bowl, that kind of stuff.
The Cheez-It
Schools
Bowl.
often spend more on travel and expenses and on buying ticket allotments than they actually make for playing in the bowl game, because bowl games don't get paid out directly to the team. When a team goes to a bowl game, if they're in the Big Ten, the money they get for that appearance, let's say, I think it's non-BCS bowls this year, are like $4 million.
Well, BCS isn't a thing, but yeah.
Or
Yeah,
sorry,
you're much
non-playoff
bigger
bowls. I'm
behind
sorry.
there,
Yeah,
Russ.
good call. Hey,
Oh, no, BCS days.
Oh, back when the computers made all the decisions for me.
newfangled BCS system is ridiculous.
You guys, I want to pause for 1 second. Welcome in a surprise guest. Here we have Eric.
Oh.
Hey!
What's up, Eric?
It is.
There we go.
And he
There we
showed
go.
sunglasses too. Russ, Damon, and I we're
Hey,
following
the
them.
bottom.
Nerds.
I mean,
bottom
or
line-
Chris and Dylan are like cosplaying as each other right now. It's kind of weird. I'm not gonna.
True story. I have some clip
Sorry,
on
just a
jealous?
couple
my desk.
handsome
I'm gonna put 'em
fellas,
on.
all
I'm
right?
not jealous. I'm just pointing out the obvious here.
So
Haters
I-
gonna
I'm-
hate.
I had to put
Speaking
on
of-
sunglasses because your guys' basketball team's so freaking bright. Gosh.
Hey, fam, what's up? Oh yeah, that's
Hey,
right. You don't count.
cooking.
We're
that.
good in
You don't-
November and December, baby. That's
Hey.
what's up.
Have you guys seen Ohio State basketball? They can actually dribble.
What?
Ah.
Yeah, you guys beat Alabama.
Did
That
you
was
guys
awesome.
do it 2 days in a row though?
We
Like 2
did.
games in a row? Oh, okay.
We did. Yeah. And we
That's
beat
impressive.
we beat the Connor Stallions team tonight.
Is that what you're calling them now?
Nice.
Yeah. There was I guess a bunch of students in the student section all dressed up in Central Michigan stuff and glasses.
Hey, how are the vibes after last week?
Oh, it hurts, dude. It feels like we got kicked in the nuts hard. And yeah.
Has the
it's-
Michigan podcast?
I almost
been
feel like
talking
you guys
some
need to
smack?
play on a neutral field, like literally at Lucas Oil Stadium, like meet in the middle. And because I would love to see like a stadium, like right down the middle, 50-50 Ohio
Like
State.
the Florida
50-50.
Georgia game or whatever.
So
Yeah.
so if I don't know that'd be a good idea, because when the majority of the stadium is one fan base, the other one kind of 50-50
backs off.
if-
Yeah.
50-50 might be rough. Like
Yeah,
it
It'd be
might
fun to
it
watch
might
from
get-
home.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Well, I'm just glad they wore their Michigan should have wore their maize pants and their classic uniform, but I'm glad Ohio State broke out the classics.
No, I
The
think Eric
rival-
makes a good point, because I did
Didn't
go
matter.
to a
Fucking
rivalry game.
Frank.
I went to a rivalry game this past week, and I did go and watch Louisville and Kentucky play.
Ah,
It was-
Louisville
It
Nerds.
was it was rough. It was roughly 50-50, if not 60-40.
And how many fights did you see break out?
3. It was ugly. Yeah, I saw 3 fights. I saw a grown man punching his chair over and over again, bloody knuckles. When his friends pulled him away, he was crying.
Was that Greg Brown?
There were all sorts of things that I saw there that were really eye opening. And I've been to these games before. It wasn't my first time.
That was Eric in his living room during the Michigan game.
But yeah,
Dude,
Eric makes a really good point though, in that when you get 50-50 crowds, things can get pretty
Yeah.
ugly pretty quick.
yeah, which is why you see a lot of fights in the NFL, because a lot more people travel in the NFL, which is odd to me, because I don't know. Like
I just
I'm a
don't have.
col-
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, I just don't have any desire to go to an NFL game.
Like mine's not even that. Like I just don't have the personal connection to NFL teams like I do
Yeah.
college teams. Like all of us here have either went to Purdue, had a personal family connection to Purdue, anything like that, where like the NFL, I'm just like, oh, I picked the Colts to be my team, so I'm just going to enjoy them. You know what I mean? Like
Football
it's not,
season's still going on. Joe Burrow's hurt. The Purdue's done. Football season's been gone for me, boys. I don't know. Go Raiders.
So you asked the question, Frank, about does Ohio State? I think it was you, Frank. Maybe not. It might have been Damon. Does Ohio State pay their?
Yeah, how much did you guys pay Marvin Harrison Jr. to come to Ohio State?
Marvin Harris. Well, first off, I don't know. So the argument in Columbus right now is that we aren't paying recruits, and that's why we keep losing out on some of them.
Well, it all goes to Ryan Day's beard dye.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not even going to come back on that because at this point he should shave it because he's not doing good with it. He's lost his beard privileges.
I thought he was going to A&M for a minute. What do we?
And there was a loud contingent of the fan base that was like, "Go." So not as much as Miami County. Yeah, exactly. So there is like this idea in Columbus that you have to earn your NIL, meaning when you get here, if you perform, then they're going to pay you. So the rumor was last year that they had offered CJ Stroud $4 million.
Wow.
In NIL to stay another year, and he turned it down because obviously $4 million versus however much he made is the second pick of the NFL draft. You do the math, right?
Yeah.
Good decision.
In the NFL, by the way.
Just glad he didn't go to the Bears. Jesus.
Like Justin Fields.
Yeah, that poor bastard.
That I feel terrible for him, by the way.
Dude,
because, I hope he like in all honesty, Dylan, as a Bengals fan, like wouldn't we want him right now?
Oh, well,
as our backup,
right now,
yeah, as our backup. Like I'm like all for him being a backup in Cincinnati. Anyways, so how much are we actually giving recruits in NIL? I can't tell you the answer to that, but I can tell you that like when you get here and you perform, you get paid well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to bring up this. At some point, college football has to make the decision if they're going to pay players or not.
Yeah.
Because you go and you look at like NIL deals for NFL players, they're not getting anywhere close, some of them, to what college kids are getting.
Yeah.
And it's really becoming this pay to play system, which is not what it was supposed to be to begin with. And if they decide, hey, we're going to pay players, then that makes them employees of the university and they have to sign contracts. Won't that change NIL, or I'm sorry, the transfer portal? You better believe it is, because if you break your contract, that's why in the NFL, if you break your contract, you don't get to play.
Yeah.
You just sit out. So there's some serious behind the scenes talking going on amongst the higher ups that when someone gains control, because the NCAA has no control of college football. They do basketball because of the NCAA tournament, but not college football. It's all CFP, right? The CFP committee controls college football more so than the NCAA.
1,000%.
Which is why you're not going to see Jim Harbaugh get in much trouble. I don't think so. There you go. Dylan, you're last up. Damon,
I've got glasses on, all right? I started this trend.
Hey, I put my clip-ons on, okay?
That's such a dad move.
I want to see Damon get a Sharpie out.
I will say this. While I don't think Jim Harbaugh gets a lot of punishment from the NCAA, I think he's gone to the NFL.
I agree.
I think that he has, I don't want to say burnt his bridge at Michigan, but you can't tell me the board of trustees and everybody else are excited about 3 investigations into the football program in 4 months.
I don't know. I feel like they see him as like their god, so I feel like they wouldn't care. I mean, they were crying whenever he was sitting at home.
Have we ever seen a fan base flip so quick? Because every offseason they want him fired, and now he's this like messiah almost.
That's what beating Ohio State will do for you as a Michigan coach.
Yeah, Eric, talk about that game. What's the temperature of the fan base like right now? Is there panic? You guys feel good? I mean, because ultimately,
Celsius.
You know, like Ohio State's in a very different tier than Purdue is, and that like beating Michigan is the goal, right? It's to beat Michigan and make the playoffs, and anything less than that is a failure, right? So How are you all feeling right now as a fan base?
So I put out a poll question. It was Saturday night for Sunday night show. And the poll question was, what do you think of Ryan Day now? And your options were, I love him, give him a lifetime contract. I don't like the feeling right now, but how can you fire 11-win coach?
We would kill for 11 wins. I mean,
I'd chop off a testicle for an 11-win coach.
He's permanently he's now on the hot seat, and I hate him, fire him, get rid of him. So the results were very interesting. I would say about 50% either want him fired or he's on the hot seat. And about 45 say, how can you fire an 11-win coach? And then there are 5% Michigan fans trolling us saying, give him a lifetime contract. So
I did that too. That's me.
Is that what you voted for?
You dick.
Get out of there, Paul.
You were one of 10 people on Facebook that voted for that. So anyway, so that was incredible. And then I wrote about it tonight for Scarlet and Game, and I thought it was incredibly interesting that basically the fan base is split. It's how can you fire a guy who wins 11 games every year, and then hey, this game matters the most, and we're losing it every year. So it's really the temperature of the fan base right now is really it's toxic.
Ryan Day's aging by the minute.
But I will also say this though, like, be careful because the grass isn't always greener, and we can ask Nebraska that.
We know that, but
you gotta.
Do you have to understand, Chris? We would rather lose one game a year and beat them.
No, and I totally get that. I just and ultimately, Ohio State's never going to be a program that's not going to get a high-profile coach that can get 11 wins a season, So I understand that. But I get worried that, like, sometimes I think that fans, especially in the Purdue sphere, forget about history. I mean, what, you guys won 9 or 11 in a row? Like, it's just an ebb and flow, I think, between programs. I mean, what, under Hazel, IU won, 4 straight, and then we won at 5 of the last 6?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's one of those where I understand it's the game and you want to win the game, but I think everybody just needs to take their blood pressure meds, let the dust settle.
Speaking of blood pressure meds, I think my neighbors are arguing at each other outside right now, and I just hear it outside. That's why I'm taking off my headphones.
Open your window. I'm podcasting here. Shut up.
I'm doing a show over here. Mind your business.
Got shit to
They're probably arguing about Michigan and Ohio State right now. That's probably
I assume Ohio State fans duking it out.
So it's going to be very interesting what Ryan Day does from here. And he's got some serious issues on this coaching staff. You guys were talking about having a coach on your staff who can create, who's done a good job of elevating the defensive line play and getting a pass rush. Larry Johnson is 70-some years old, and the defensive line play has been decreasing for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Not 10 years, but maybe 5 years since 2019. So 4 years. You have Parker Fleming as our special teams coordinator, who is trash. Our special teams is terrible. Worse than
if you want to fire him and give us a special teams coordinator, we'd be just happy to have.
I think we have one. His name's like Petrelli or something.
Trust me, one season with him, and you'd be like, "Can you have him back?" Trust me. You have James. You have James Laurinaitis, who's not even on the full-time staff, who can't even go out and recruit, who's probably our best defensive coach outside of the defensive coordinator. We have 2 defensive backs coach. Why do we have 2 defensive backs coach? You have a corner and a safety coach. It's like, come on, guys, really? I mean, we have Urban Meyer's son-in-law as our quarterbacks coach, who is just a wasted staff member because Ryan Day is the quarterbacks coach. Let's be honest. So there's a lot of things.
What is Urban Meyer's? What has he done to earn that role? Was he a quarterback?
His daddy was the coach, or
he married his daughter.
Yeah. Right, what's the general fan base's opinion of Brian Hartline? Because outside of Columbus, it seems like everybody loves him, says he's going to be a future head coach and going to be a solid dude. And I actually, before Walters, was kind of hoping we would hire Brian Hartline. He seems like an offensive guru that kind of gets his players in positions to win, but just kind of
he is a recruiting guru and a wide receiver guru, but obviously, Ryan Day did not trust him to call plays this year. So he was made the offensive coordinator, and he never called one play
That's
the
a problem.
entire season. So there was some what's up with that type of thing.
Yeah.
We lost Kevin Wilson to Tulsa. He became the head coach at Tulsa. He
Miss
was
that
our
guy at
offensive
IU.
coordinator. And and Ryan Day trusted him in the box. He was
Mhm.
his eyes in the sky. That hurt us this year.
Yeah.
Eyes in the
I
sky,
do.
huh?
Yeah, I do believe that. Yeah, a
Feeling
little
signs? Hmm.
little Chicago Bulls reference.
Yeah.
Eyes in the
I
eyes in the
like it.
sky. That's the anyways.
Yeah.
No, that would be cell phones in the stands. That's what that would be.
Ah, that's it. Okay. Yeah.
Good one.
It's easy to get confused.
Yeah, big difference there. So, anyways, there's going to be a lot of off season. Like this off season is going to be content crazy for us because what every little thing Ryan Day does is going to be
Gunshots?
scrutinized.
No, the lady's in front of my house on their speakerphone in her car, and I could hear her conversation. So I'm hearing this lady's conversation and Eric's wonderful voice, and it's very
up, you fat bitch.
Oh, okay, all right.
So when we came,
Go ahead, Eric.
it might be the same lady that we sat next to when we came to the Purdue game. Did you guys hear this story?
No,
No, I didn't. Dylan doesn't tell
This
us
ought to be
anything.
good.
I don't think I heard the story.
All right, I got to take my glasses off for this one because this is freaking hilarious. We get there. We run into Dylan, right? Dylan's a lot taller than I expected, and he probably looks down at me like, "Dude, you're a lot fatter than I expected." Eric. But anyways,
No,
so we run into Dylan. We say hi. We go down to our seats, right? And Chris, myself are big guys, and Aaron still looks like he could do 300 push-ups in the military.
he does
get
look
down-
handsome.
We get down to our seats, right? And we're sitting down, and a Purdue woman and her husband, lovely people, had a lovely singing voice during the national anthem.
Oh, man.
She comes down and sits down. She goes, "Can you scoot down? You're in my seats." And I look down, I go, "Ma'am, I am in my seat." She goes, "No, these are ice." I go, "I'm fat. What do you want me to do?"
I will say, as a bigger guy, the seats at Ross-Ade, there's
little
not a
slim.
whole lot of wiggle room. They were
We
made
ended
100
up
years ago.
standing sideways for most of the game.
Oh.
But the guy behind me goes, "Geez, he said he's fat, Big Mac Betty. What do you want him to do?"
Welcome to Purdue. Oh, I love it.
Oh, wow, Big Mac Betty.
That's hilarious.
She sits down, and of course, she never said anything else the rest of the game. She gets up and leaves at the beginning of the third. She's gone.
I was gonna say she's probably out pretty early.
So
I didn't get to meet the big nut. That was disappointing.
Oh, hey, he was down in the corner. He would have taken.
How
taken
does
a
he always
picture
get
with
good
him.
seats? Good for him.
So, anyway, so the rest of the game, we were like talking, and then on our podcast, we would talk about Big Mac Betty.
Big Mac Betty.
Man, we gotta
that's
find her.
awesome.
We gotta have her come on the podcast.
Lovely singing voice, like I said.
There's always that person that just like sings like they're at the one with the microphone during the national anthem.
Oh yeah,
You gotta love it.
yeah.
So
You
Eric,
know, it's
we-
funny hearing you talk about Ohio State football. The parallels between Ohio State football fandom and Purdue basketball fandom are so similar. It's not even funny.
They are. I hear
So
you guys
similar.
talk. I hear you guys talk, and I'm like, yeah, I know your I know your language you're speaking. You know, because it's the same way we are with football. And then how you guys are with football is exactly how we are with basketball. Like we want to be good. We've been good, but sometimes we're not good.
Yeah.
It's like
The
next
thing
year,
that sucks
maybe.
though is that hill to climb in football is so much tougher, I feel like, than it is in basketball.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think because football is just more of a physical sport. You know,
That and you've got, I mean, 135 teams, 4 of them getting to the playoff, and you've got to beat other perennial powerhouses to get there. And then again, when your offensive line is 3 times the size of our defensive line, guys are getting crushed and killed, and we got 3rd string offensive linemen in. And I think where compared to basketball, if you can just punch your ticket, like you have a pretty good chance, I mean, you've at least given yourself a chance. That's why I think the 12-team playoffs actually going to be really fun.
And believe it or not, this year I believe football has become more level.
I
Like,
agree.
I mean, you look at Georgia.
Well, you lose to
and-
Michigan and you start saying that.
Well, no, but you look. let's look at Georgia, right? Georgia's going for their 3rd straight in a row. Does anybody here really think it's automatic they're going to get it? I
No.
don't. I don't know that they're going to win this weekend.
Yeah. They got
I
Bama,
mean,
right? In the title
Yeah.
game?
They have Bama. Yeah.
That's going to be a
So,
good one.
I mean, how about Washington? You think they're going to beat Oregon again? I don't.
Right.
Oregon
I
is
think-
fun.
I think
Oregon's
Oregon
so
can
much
beat
fun.
anybody right now.
Yeah.
Like, I
I'm
think
excited
they
for
are
them
really
to be in the
good.
Big Ten.
Oregon really clicked it on after that Washington game. They really seemed to kind of set them back into their track.
And talking about football teams with hype, talk about the rise and crashing fall of Colorado football. That's just-
Love it.
Oh my God. Like all the media attention just and how much shit they talked at the beginning of the year, especially, and just to see him go.
Oh, wait. Hey, $12 Amazon was good.
Apple Watch, because I'm a nerd.
I have one. I always forget to charge it, so I just wear this $12
You're such a
cake.
clown.
You know, well, because I break stuff. So
It's just wild seeing I know the Sanders kid that plays quarterback, and then who's the other one that plays offense and defense that everyone talks about?
Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter, yeah.
Yeah, I see, I always see them at like what games, like Denver Nugget games and stuff. They'll
Oh,
go
yeah.
to and they'll sit courtside and just like they're eating it up right now. and
Yeah,
it's
our
like, you're
celebrity podcast host was at a Denver Nuggets game, weren't you, Frank?
That's true. Yeah, Frank,
just
how was
recently.
that?
Yeah. Oh, it was
Did you sit
great.
courtside?
Yeah.
Your seats were pretty good, if I remember right.
My seats were not courtside; they were in the lower level. No, it was fun. They mentioned the altitude a lot. So like when they're doing the team intros, they're like, welcome, because they played the Bulls. Welcome in from Chicago at only 300 feet above sea level, and everyone's
Sweet.
boo, boo, boo.
What a clown
like,
shoot.
We
type
have
thing.
more
Yeah.
sea level.
and then they're like, welcome the Nuggets from 5,000 feet above sea level, and everyone goes crazy. Yeah, it's a big
very-
thing there. They
When
have
I
these
went to-
signs in the stadium that say warning, low oxygen and stuff. It's kind of strange.
That's
But
a
after
very
that-
good image.
breathe. Welcome to Denver. It's like what the.
Can I ask
When
you
I
guys a
went to
question?
Denver back in March, I didn't think it was that bad. But go ahead. Sorry, Eric.
So I was watching Purdue basketball yesterday with my stepson, and I was like, "Hey, check out Zach Edey. Dude's amazing.
Is
should
your
be
son
in-
going to be 7'4"? We'll paint while we're
No, no. His mom is 5'2", so I don't think that's gonna happen.
Well, Edie's mom's not that tall, I don't think. I've never seen her in person.
So,
She's a short lady.
Oh, okay. never mind.
so he goes, I coach basketball. He goes, Eric, how would you stop him? And I sat there for a second and I was like, I don't know that you can. Like,
Pray.
so in
Right.
Zach Edey's worst games, how have teams like kept
Triple
him?
team him.
But come on, you can't.
Smother him.
Yeah, it's literally like they dare the refs to call fouls, so they
Yeah,
will beat the
that's
crap
what
out of
Fairleigh
all games.
Dickinson did.
Triple team them.
He's got scars on
Ultimately,
his arms
that's it.
for a reason.
Ultimately,
Yeah.
that's it. Is you just foul them constantly, knowing they're not going to call all of them.
Like,
Yeah,
watch
I
him
was-
try to get
I was at the
watch him try to
Xavier
get
game.
an offensive rebound or a defensive rebound. He's getting his arm yanked down to the ground, like
Yeah.
with his other arm up in the air, trying to get the ball.
If
So
you
it's,
look
hack-
at,
like almost
it's
every
literally
time.
hack and shack. You guys
Yeah.
just
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you can
you
find that
foul them
Fairleigh
every
Dick,
possession, they're not going to call them all.
if you can watch that Fairleigh Dickinson game, it was literally 3 or 4 guys on him, and they were just forcing us to pass out and hit
And we just couldn't hit
threes, and we
threes.
just
Yeah,
couldn't hit threes.
That's the other part of it is you got to hope we don't hit the threes when he kicks
Right.
it out because
Which
we
is
got the
nice
shooters.
this year.
Yeah.
We are actually hitting the threes, but yeah,
So far,
like
yeah.
this kid, it looks like he's been in a mixed martial arts fight after each game in the Big Ten season. He's just scarred and bloody, and he's got marks all over him. It's some of the wildest stuff I've ever seen.
It's a
So I
beast.
think Ohio State is actually going to try to play him straight up with Akpara.
That's not a good idea.
That's not going to work well. Yeah.
Eating. Ooh,
Hey, it's
so he
Sonny
went,
from the
Sonny sound. See, I like.
Dude, Sonny looks so professional. Look at this picture.
Yeah.
Holy
I
great
cow!
know.
headshot, Sonny. You're a
He looks like
handsome
he's got his
man.
life together.
Sonny, you need to put sunglasses on that headshot so you can fit in.
Yeah.
So Sonny says that Edey and Kofi had some good battles. The answer is
They
probably
did.
another massively talented guy, but those are few and far between in college now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
But
Kofi,
even-
but Kofi was physical. Like he was.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like he'd been in the weight room. Like
But-
so. Our guy is a toothpick. Like he's gonna.
And I
gonna
think
get ran
I think
over, man.
3 years now of Edie getting the shit beat out of him. He's just
Well,
he just seems like he's used to it.
Who remembers when Edey just took it to Kofi? So,
Yeah.
like, do you remember leading up to
That
that game?
that Martin Luther King game.
Yeah. So like leading up to that game, everyone was like, "What are you
Oh,
going to
yeah,
do to
because that game
stop
started at
Kofi?"
like 1:00.
Yeah.
Like, and everyone's asking Zach Edey, what are you going to do to stop Kofi? How are you going to handle Kofi? And then after that game, he was like, no one ever asked how Kofi was going to handle Zach Edey. But like he went straight at him. Like
He did.
like that was the
That's
first
like-
time we saw like monster
Mean Zach.
like angry Zach Edey. And
Yeah.
I'm like, where's this guy coming?
Yeah.
Like we saw
di-
flashes of what he was going to
I didn't know he had a little bit of a Canadian gangster in him. That's
Oh, yeah.
awesome,
He's a
dude.
Canadian goose.
He's an
They like to stay
OG
deep down.
Canuck. Like
Well-
he's about that life.
So shout out Burke from the IU podcast for basketball. He even said on the Big Ten Huddle that Edey is playing like a deranged, like angered giant of a human being this year.
I've noticed that this
So-
year. He
so watch
seems like
out.
he's got something to prove.
Exactly.
Well, what's funny is all of a sudden Ohio State's better this year, and it's like all the experts are like, the only team that's going to give Purdue a challenge is Ohio State. And I'm about to spit my water out when I heard that. I'm like, dudes, come on. No,
Bring it on.
no.
Bring it on.
I mean, if the two sophomore guards continue to play the way they did against Alabama, I mean,
They look good. They
They look
tore it up
good.
again tonight, but
I'm looking forward to seeing how we play against Rutgers because Cliff Omarui, or however you say his last name, he always plays Zach really well.
Omari.
He's very physical, very athletic guy. So that's a matchup that I look forward to every year because it's always a pretty good matchup.
We'll be good.
Hey,
Hey.
Eric, what's the date of the hockey game we're all going to?
January 13th,
Ooh, that'd be a good game.
Buckeyes.
Name.
Golden Domers.
Golden
Domer,
Nerds.
baby.
Yep.
So Eric, Purdue fans are in a little bit of a panic right now in terms of the transfer portal and guys leaving and whatnot. In your opinion, what does the future of Purdue look like, and should we be panicking right now?
No, do not panic. You guys have the right guy in place.
Thank you.
I pay attention to recruiting a lot, especially in the Big Ten. In the offseason, we do a thing on our podcast called Border Wars, where we look at the top 10 from every state and then look to see where they're trending or where they're committed to. And
that.
if
That's cool.
if you look at and we do it in it used to be the Midwest Big Ten footprint.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I don't know how
The
we're gonna do it
US.
this year. It's like,
America.
but if you look at how he is done going into 2024 versus what you guys had done in the past, you guys are making inroads in recruiting that has not
Preach.
been done before.
Yep.
And so this first year was always going to be establish my my style of play, put my foot down on this is who I am, who's with me. You're finding out now who wasn't with him.
Yeah.
So when people hit the transfer portal, don't panic, because those are the guys who weren't going to ride and die with your coach anyways.
Yes.
Okay. Urban Meyer did the same thing, guys. It's the only problem was when Urban Meyer came in, there wasn't a transfer portal. When you transferred, you had to sit out a year. There was still a handful of guys who left, and he pushed them out and some of them were starters. And he said, if you're not going to play the toughness and the style I don't want you. And then he started to build it up in the recruiting class. And if you look at his first big recruiting class, which 2024 will be Walter's first big recruiting class. When you look at Urban Meyer's first big recruiting class, that was the class that ended up winning the national championship. That was Zeke, that was Bosa, that was Perry, all of those guys. Okay. So he's building that class right now. So the 2024 class is going to be the class that
wins the
builds
national
program.
championship. That's what I'm
Beat
hearing.
Ohio State.
And Urban Meyer had the very unique opportunity, if you want to call it that, Ohio State, to actually have to do a rebuild, right? You guys went 6-7 the year before he came in.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Last
happen
time we
very
had a
often
losing
for an Ohio
record.
State coach. Yeah.
It's like
Uh,
turmoil
But
for
no,
us.
we went.
It's a Thursday
So-
for us.
That was the second losing record in my lifetime for Ohio State, was that year.
But yeah, we went 2023 class we just talked about it 70th. And now the
I think
2024
you said
class
58th.
okay, maybe hold on. See, now you got me guessing.
How many
I think
how
you said
many
you thought it was 70th, but then it was
how many
58th.
4-stars do you guys have
58th.
I
In that
think you
class?
brought in 12.
in 24 in the 24 class?
In the
12?
24
Oh,
class?
24 class, not that many, like a
2,
handful.
3, 4.
Yeah, but Brom had like, what was it, 14 and 6 years combined or something?
Yeah, something like that.
So,
So-
I have a theory, okay? Don't pay attention to your 5 stars. That's my like.
Well, good
Everybody
thing
talks about
because we don't
stars.
get many.
I was gonna say,
Everybody-
what 5
Check.
stars?
Okay.
Everybody always
Good.
talks about how many 5 stars you get. If you look at the success rate of 5 stars, it's not nearly as good as you think it is.
You definitely go up in your capabilities way more than you go, or way less than you go down.
Sure. So
Or
like
you
if,
go down more.
if
Sorry,
you look
words.
at like, okay, so 5 star, there's only 32 of them, right?
Yeah.
They have all these expectations. How many times that recruit will hit that expectation of being a 5 star it's not what you think it is.
Yeah.
But you build your program on the 4 stars, which
Yeah.
are your 33 through, I think, Frank, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it top 300? Is that what a
Yeah.
4 star is?
150 or 300.
150 in basketball, 300 in football.
Okay,
Yeah.
There we
yep,
go.
that's
There
where I'm
we go.
getting screwed up.
There we go.
He would know. Yeah.
So that's why I asked him. So
Yeah, absolutely.
so I'm like, okay, but that's where those are the guys that typically are the backbone of your program. Now, it just so happens that a good programs, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan.
Nuts. There it is.
Um,
Was that
Not
last
the
They-
team up north. Whoa, he said the name.
yeah.
one?
Well,
Whoa.
they've actually beat us 3 times in a row. I gotta start kind of
Man,
admitting it.
man, hell
Acknowledging.
has frozen over.
acknowledging it, right? So anyways, if you look at them, the more you have, obviously, the less they're going to, some of them will hit. They'll end up like, hey, that guy didn't do good and he leaves. But the majority of your starters and production that you get from your team is on those 4 stars. Now, for you guys, probably high 3 stars, right?
Yeah.
Those are the guys.
Yeah.
So you're 300 to 450, 500 guys. And that's the difference between, say, a Purdue and Illinois and an Indiana and a Northwestern typically, is they don't have as many of those guys. Recruiting still counts. Don't get me wrong, but it's what you do in producing talent from those recruits that gets
You have to have a
the
really
line.
good player development program.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can't just
Yeah.
you can't just recruit your way to a national championship.
Right.
Although but you can't ignore it either. There's got to be a balance of
yeah.
both. But what I'm getting at is this: I pay attention to those recruiting numbers. The opportunity that Walters has of being better because of the recruiting, if he can couple that with development, you guys are going to be extremely good in 2 years.
Yeah, I'm very excited, especially a lot of our 4 stars that are coming in next year are defensive players. So, like our best player for next year, Coy Beasley, 4 star, he's a 92, and then 247 Sports ratings here overall, and he's a safety.
You guys stole a tight end from Ohio. That's a 4-star, didn't you?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
moved down to a 3 star since then, but yeah, Tavion Galloway, and he's like 6'6".
Okay, that's all right. That's the other thing with recruiting you need to pay attention to. Your star rating goes up or down based on where you commit to. Did you know that?
Really?
Oh, I had no
Yeah,
idea.
he was a 4-star when he committed to LSU, and then he decommitted, goes to Purdue, he gets dropped to a 3-star.
No
We-
shit.
We,
Good, I
we
didn't
see it
know
happen
that.
in
Why is that?
basketball all the time too. Yeah,
Eric, I'm gonna have to pick your brain about recruiting.
Why is that a thing?
I really enjoy recruiting stuff.
Okay, because the people who determine your star rating in recruiting work for recruiting companies. So like your 247 Sports, the other ones that are
Rivals on 3,
Rival.
ESPN.
Hey, nailed it. Okay. All of those guys typically where they're getting their money from are from fan bases. So like for instance, the Midwest recruiting guy, when he writes a story about recruiting, typically it hits more with Michigan and Ohio State, right?
Mhm.
So they're going to click on that story. They're going to click on that guy's profile more if it's Ohio State gets the next big high 4-star. Well, they push those. Okay. So one of the things that we started doing is Aaron, who's my co-host, who's really, really good at talent. By the way, he looked at Quinn Ewers. He actually went and watched Quinn Ewers in person. And he told me he's not that good. He's like, he's good, but he's not as good as everybody thinks he is.
Huh.
And he nailed it. Like Quinn Ewers is good, but come on, guys. See, there's no way he's the top-rated high school player of all time. You got to be kidding me. There's no way. Okay. So my point is this is we'll watch film and we'll have someone who's a 3-star and we'll compare it to someone who's a 4-star and we're like, we like the guy who's a 3-star better. Like How are they getting a 4? Oh, because he's going to an SEC school. Okay, I got it now.
Yeah, that
That's
makes
So
sense.
wild. I never
you
knew that.
really have to
Yeah.
you pay attention to that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But
So
to,
one
to
of the
talk more
things-
about that though was that even some more of the guys that are coming in, like Luke Williams, he's another safety, 4-star. We've got who was it? We've got like we have 2 4-star safeties. I don't know the last time Purdue's ever had 2 4-star safeties in a class. It's
No.
usually when we're at the top there, it's either wide receiver or quarterback. So that's
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, real
One of the
quick,
things-
boys.
One of the
I'm
things Eric said last time, I'm gonna just last thing here. One of the things Eric said last time, and this hit home with me, Eric. He said stars matter, like, and so is the correct take that stars matter, but with a little bit of a caveat? Is that a fair statement?
It is, because and here's the other thing too, is the transfer portal is destroying your stars. We just lost a 4-star today in the transfer
Yeah.
portal. Never saw the field, so it didn't matter, right?
Right.
And we'll go out and we'll replace him with a kid who was a 3-star who's now a 4-star talent.
Yeah, which is weird because when you look at the transfer portal like map or whatever, it'll be like came in as a 3-star, elevated to a 5-star. Like, what the hell? Like, it's just it's interesting to me. But
Yeah.
on that note, boys, 5 a.m. comes early, so I will talk to you guys later. Eric, hit me up. I'd love to pick your brain and chit chat with you about recruiting stuff, because I'm always interested in that, especially in these new times of NIL and transfer portal.
Absolutely, man. Sounds fun.
All right.
Have
See you,
your
boys.
people call our people.
See you, man.
Love you, Chris.
Man,
Gonna miss you, Chris.
So Frank, I would say that that's a true statement. Stars still matter. Absolutely. You can't recruit only 3-star and 2-star guys and expect to win. You can't do it. You got to have upper echelon talent, but you also have to develop that talent. Which is why I think if you look at you look at the top programs, you look at their assistant coaches. They're the ones really developing the talent, right?
Yeah.
Those are the guys that you need to, and I think that's where Ryan Day's failed a little bit. He's just not developing the talent very well at certain positions anymore.
Well, he certainly developed Marvin Harrison Jr.
So I've
That
got
was,
one last question. It's kind of off topic from where we went, but it was something I was talking about when you joined us, and I think you might have some good insight on it, considering what you've talked about and known so far. But do you understand how bowl games get paid out?
I don't actually. I feel like, is it the conference that gets the money technically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to track it down, and the farthest I got was it sounds like it's equally distributed amongst the conference.
Okay,
the
so
money-
I
so the
think
money-
what
Oh, sorry.
I think what the Big Ten does is all the money that they get from all the different bowl games, including the money that they get from the Big Ten championship game, all comes to a pot, and then they evenly distribute it
Really?
amongst the.
Yeah.
Same thing with network money, I believe, too.
Right. Yeah. So they reimburse, I think, travel. So like if a team goes to bowl game, they get more money technically because they basically say, hey, the Big Ten, this is how much it's cost for our team to be able to travel to this game, feed them, all that stuff. Big Ten gives them that out of that pile before they divide it up. But you usually don't get any more money for going to a BCS or the college football playoff. I said BCS again. The college football playoff semifinal or the final. You don't get any more money as a team than IU, who finished bottom of the conference.
I believe that's to be true. Now, that is
Yeah.
why the SEC bends over backwards to get 2 teams in every year.
Huh.
Yeah. So that was just something, because I know you guys talked about, you guys as in Boulder Express talked to with IU guy last Wednesday about the money for going to bowl game. Like, it's great for the program. It's great for, the team that stayed home and got to spend the month recruiting instead of practicing gets that same money. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Okay, well, since Russ brings that up, Eric, I would like to know your opinion on this as well. Do you think it is important to have a loaded schedule? If you're not a, nationally touted team like Ohio State, like Purdue, for example, we only play like 2 teams this entire year with losing records. So like our non-con, should we be scheduling cupcakes, get those 3 to 4 wins, and then get those 6 wins, or should we be scheduling these tough opponents every year? What are your thoughts on that?
Depends on what you want. I mean, as a fan, I want great games. I thought you guys had a great schedule. Another team that had a good schedule like really good schedule and no one talked about it was Notre Dame. Notre Dame's
Yeah.
schedule was difficult. I know, Russ, you're like, come on. No, I'm serious. Go look at their schedule.
I feel like I did look at their schedule, and pretty much their team. Oh, that's what it was. So Frank and I, we've done this show where we start talking about our rankings, because one of the cool things about Big Banter is they do the poll for top 25 and power rankings. And so with that, you have to look a little bit into team schedules, who they played, wins, losses, that kind of thing. Notre Dame's schedule was tough, but every team that they played that is ranked in the college football top 25, they lost to. So yes, that's why I don't
it's
really
still been
like
a
the
tough
strength.
schedule, though.
Yeah.
Right, but that's why I don't like the strength of schedule argument, because your strength of schedule could be high because of some of the top opponents, but if you lose every one of those games, why are you getting credit for that strength of schedule? That's just me.
So I
This
think
depends on how many of those you're playing.
I think
Right.
it depends, Damon, on what perspective you're looking at from. So if you're looking at it from we're trying to get into a 4-team college playoff, obviously you want to try to get as many wins as you can, right? It's all about being 12-0 at the end of the year. If you're 12-0 and you win your conference, if you're in a Power 5, you're going to get into the CFP.
Mm-hmm.
So I hate to say it, but Jim Harbaugh's schedule, he did it right.
Right.
You guys did it wrong if you're going to do that. But as a fan, did you not appreciate the fact that every week was a freaking awesome game?
A lot of them
I don't
were
know.
awesome.
A lot of them were not awesome this year.
I did.
don't
I
know.
enjoyed watching Purdue games this year. Think about your non-conference. Okay, you had one of the top non-Power 5 teams you played, right?
It's better than playing MAC schools.
I
Then
won
we
this-
went to
Fresno State.
Virginia Tech
you
after
went
that.
to Virginia Tech, who ended up being 6-6,
Mhm.
I believe. Syracuse, which has become almost like a mini rival to you guys, seems
Yeah.
like. That was a
Yeah.
fun game at first, to the end. You ended up playing. I still can't remember the team from California played. Who did you guys play?
Fresno State.
Fresno State.
There you go. They were like what, 8-9-3 or 10-2?
They were 8-4.
Something like that, yeah.
They were
8-4?
9-1, and then they lost their last. They were 8-1, and then they lost their last 4
Last
games.
3. Okay.
3. Yeah.
8. So all right, but 8. Okay, that's a good team. All right, those are 3 really good non-conference opponents. Right. As
Mhm.
Ohio State fans, next year our non-conference is trash.
I mean, it
It's
wasn't.
trash.
If it wasn't for Notre Dame, it was trash this year. Youngstown State and Western Kentucky.
Western Kentucky was fun though.
Yeah, that's
It-
where I think, like I said, you can have a strength of schedule that's big because of the top teams, but I think it's where it might hurt Ohio State because yes, they only had one loss, but their one loss was to Michigan, who's the number 2 team in the country now. Penn State is getting kind of trashed because all they do is lose to Michigan and Ohio State every single year. And then, like I said, Notre Dame, they didn't beat anybody. Like, they played a tough schedule, but they didn't beat anybody. So I think that's where Ohio State gets hurt, because Oregon has the benefit of they've played 8 ranked teams this year. And so if Oregon
USC
goes
next
one
year is
loss,
better.
they're going to be above Ohio State.
So moving forward, it's not going to matter anymore, because it's going to be, if you're the top 2 or 3 teams in the conference in the Big Ten, you're probably in. So trying to get to that, we'll see if we can get 4 in next year. It'll be tough. I think at first we'll probably get 3 in. But I don't know. It's all depends on how it shakes out. Like this year, if Oregon and Washington were both in the Big Ten this year, we'd probably get 4 or 5 teams in and out of 12. Penn State,
Yeah.
maybe, yeah. So it'll be interesting how that goes. And so it's going to be all about setting up for the CFP, getting yourself in for the CFP. Ohio State is always, except for next year, always going to play at least one big non-conference opponent, doing a home and home. We've got on the docket, we've got Georgia. We've
You guys have
got
Texas too, right?
we have Texas, we have Alabama. In the next 6 years, we play those 3 teams.
Oh,
back to
those are
back.
going to be great games.
I think that's the way to go. I stand kind of in the middle in the schedule debate. I would like to see a couple of games that are like the Western Kentucky, Youngstown State, Indiana State, Ball State, whatever. But then you've got to get some good home and homes going for recruiting purposes. It's cool to be able to take your guys to Virginia Tech to get that experience.
So
to play home and home.
Hey, we play Ole Miss in 2034. Just don't forget about that game.
We're
It's
gonna have to
coming up.
wheel Frank into that or Russ into that one. Sorry, Frank.
So
Damn, we missed.
we also play one small Ohio school every year. Do you guys know why we do that? It's literally to pay for their athletic department for that
I was
year.
gonna say, yeah. We did that with
Like
Prelude Dickinson. We
Miami,
gave them a brand
OU.
new film room.
Every
after they beat us in
every
tournament.
year, mark it down. Ohio State will play at least one Ohio Max school, and
But
this
it's always
this,
at home, right?
always, yeah, and then they get like $1 million to $2 million gate.
But
for that
imagine
game.
playing at Oxford. That'd be kind of cool.
Eric down there.
Would never happen, man.
I know, but it's like 30 minutes from my house. That'd be kind of cool to watch.
We
you know?
played Cincinnati one time at
Oh,
Cincinnati.
so did we. It didn't go well.
No, well, listen where we played the game. We played at Cincinnati. We played at the Bengals Stadium, and they split the gate.
We played at Nipper, and I was at the game, and it was 100 degrees, and I was wearing all black like an idiot. We lost like 100-0. It was a terrible day.
It was like 70 to it was 42-7. That was Hazel's first game, I think.
We had a 70-yard punt that game. That was those are the things you remember.
There you go.
Cody Webster's 70-yard punt. I don't know why I remember that, but I do.
All
Well, all right,
boys.
we're gonna wrap it up here and do
I was
some
gonna
final
say,
thoughts.
I gotta go, David. I gotta get up early in the morning as well. Thanks for having me
Appreciate
on, guys.
you, Eric.
Keep your ear close to the ground. A lot of good things coming our way, guys.
Ooh, eyeballs emojis. Oh shit. Love
Things
you,
are
Eric.
going down. Take care, guys.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Coming on.
He didn't say love you back, but I know he does.
There's this person that I'm good friends with that every time I always see him, I'm like, all right, love you. And they never say it back. And it's been like 5 years. I'm like, one day they're gonna.
My
But
mom
anyway,
never says it back.
enough about that. Final thoughts. We obviously we didn't get to hit much about basketball. We have a big game Friday coming up against Northwestern. So real quick, we're gonna go around the room. Final thoughts. Your thoughts on Northwestern coming up this Friday. We've talked enough about football. Let's go to Northwestern. What's your one thought on Northwestern Friday
Spoilers
basketball?
by a billion.
All right, Russ,
Be a
go.
really good test. First really good test. At Northwestern, they're 57th in Ken Palm, 47 offense, 82 defense. It'd be a good test.
Well, I just want to point out we have a comment here from
Shout
Nick
out to
Burris.
Cody
Webster was
Webster.
on my slow pitch team. Freak athlete. I would love to know more about that. That sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
Nick,
Um,
where do you play slow pitch? I want to be on that team.
Yeah.
Nick's,
Also, I won't be able to
Nick's
watch
the softball
Northwestern
guru.
because it's at 9 p.m. on Friday night. 9 p.m. on a Friday. I mean,
Well,
come on.
I mean, I know you're old, but
Russ
Jesus,
is
Chicago.
I have to go to work at 2:30 in the morning on Saturday. I ain't staying
whose
up for
fault
that
was
game.
that?
So my thoughts on Northwestern. Yeah.
Love you,
You just get
So
one thought. Go ahead.
yeah, well, so I have two. This team has played.
You get
like
one.
everyone's saying Purdue has not played a road game, but they have because they played at Arkansas. It didn't
This is
matter. It
true.
was an exhibition game.
Super
So
Bowl.
yeah, so this team is road tested. The thing that scares me the most about Northwestern is they have size and they're used to trapping the post. We force a lot of teams to trap the post that don't normally do that, but they do that against every opponent they play. That being said, I think Edie's passing is improved and our shooting is going bananas right now. So as long as we can pass it out of the post, hit some open shots, we don't let the road atmosphere get to us. 5-point win.
Okay, right on. I I was looking at their schedule. I don't think they've played very many good teams so far this year. So I don't know how I don't understand Ken Palm and numbers and math at all, but I feel like they're probably going to run some more offense for Braden Smith, get him going, get him open, some of those mid-range shots going. I could see Fletcher Lawyer, if he's not getting open for threes, he's going to be driving to the lane as well. Cam Heide, he's going to be sneaky with the backdoor cuts. Caleb First is going to be doing great. I could see TKR being a really big bully in this game. If Edie, for whatever reason, gets in foul trouble, TKR can be that big bully in the post. So I see a lot of guys contributing in a lot of different ways. And so I'm going to say Boilers by like 10 or 11. So first Big Ten road game of the year. We'll see how it goes. And Nick's got one last thing here. He tried out for Purdue's baseball team, walked into practice and threw 92, watched him throw a softball out of a 300-yard field. What is or 300? Is it foot? Sorry.
Yeah,
dude.
300 foot.
Yeah, that'd be huge.
300
Jesus
yards
Christ.
would be crazy.
That would be outrageous.
We'd be-
What is,
we'd be-
who's he
We'd be
talking
winning
about?
money on the
That's-
golf course. Like, oh, I'd like to watch
It's the
this.
Polo Grounds.
Who's he talking about?
Cody
Cody
Webster.
Webster. Former Connor
I
for
don't
Purdue.
remember. Oh,
Former
he was
puncher.
like terrible at. No, wait, who was the kicker that was just terrible? Was he also
There's been
Webster?
a few of them.
There was one. No, I can't remember what his name was. It was like before that guy from Baylor came. He was bad, real bad. Anyway,
Russ is going to bed.
yep.
Let's
All right,
just
guys.
keep going
Well,
live until the last one standing.
we'll go ahead and wrap it up here, guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you've stayed this long, appreciate you. As always, check out Big Banner. Check out our sponsors at Martin Vintage and Cincy Blitz Boards. Use code BXP at checkout at Martin Vintage for 10% off. And you guys have a blessed night. Have a great week. And let's beat
We
Northwestern
love
on
ya.
Friday. So boiler up, hammer down.